What's up, everybody? My name is Joshua Yoder, and welcome to the Joshua Yoder Show. Today, I'm getting to hang out with young up-and-comer sports guy. Got to recently became an intern for Hometown Sports. His name is Logan Decker. What's up, Logan?
Not much, Josh. Thank you for having me on here.
No, thank you for coming on, bud. You seem to be quite popular nowadays, huh?
Yeah.
Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, are you just a recent graduate of Mifflin County?
Yes, I'm actually a recent graduate, class of 2025.
Oh boy, how's it feel to be out in the real world?
It definitely feels weird. I feel like I should have went to school today because today was the first day of school for Mifflin County.
Yeah, indeed. It does get some time to get used to that. And actually, speaking of Mifflin County, they at the time of this recording, they just came off their first win of the year in their brand new stadium, and you just so happened to be there. So, what experience was that like for you?
It was a pretty good experience. I think the environment was really good. I think the stadium is really beautiful, and I just think that the team did pretty well as well.
Oh, absolutely, and it's always good to kick off a new football season with a win. And speaking of kicking things off football wise, as you as well know, being a sports guy now yourself, well, we got some at the time of this recording again. College football have already began. So, how excited are you for college football to get going?
I'm really excited. I'm pumped up to see how Penn State does this year. I think that this will be a good season just in general for college football across the country.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely going to be an interesting one and a lot of expectations for certain teams. And heck, I didn't even realize this till they announced the schedules, but two of the top teams in the nation are going to kick things off with Texas and Ohio State.
Yeah, I saw that. That should be a really good matchup.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a prime time slot for sure. But let's get to you, Logan. So, what was your inspiration of becoming a sports analyst?
My inspiration was my grandfather. He started out at Port Royal a long time ago, and he's been just a big inspiration to me as a sports guy.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Craig Rutherford, correct?
Yeah, yep, you're right. Craig Rutherford is my grandfather.
Oh man, I loved working with Craig. I understand he's been dealing with some health issues, but how's he been holding up?
He's been holding up pretty good. He was just in and out of the nursing home, but he's back, and I think he's doing pretty well.
Well, my thoughts and prayers to him. He's always been good to me. So shout out to Craig. Great guy.
He's an awesome person for sure.
Absolutely. And you said about him being an inspiration. When was uh when was it first noticed to you that like, hey, maybe I can start putting this on YouTube or Facebook, and doing some reporting and video editing and all that stuff?
It was actually during the COVID pandemic. I was just sitting at my kitchen table and I was talking with my mom. This was back in 2021, whenever this was all happening. I was just like, I think we should start making Penn State videos, and then she agreed with me. We started back in January of 2021, and it's just I've been making videos ever since then.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, is this a goal of yours to try to make a career out of this, or what's the biggest thing you hope to do as being a part of the sports world?
I'm hoping to transition my knowledge from sports writing, maybe getting into broadcasting, just like maybe getting a job at a radio station doing some broadcasting.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Uh, And so, how long is it fair to say you've been a fan of sports for as long as you can remember?
Oh yeah, 100%. I've been a fan all my life. I know I'm really young, but there's some sports I don't remember watching, but as long as I remember, I've been a sports fan.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. We all start young when we start loving sports, and we all try to find our places in it. I myself been a writer now for over 10 years when it comes to covering sports, and I've always liked sports, and I always also liked to learn how it was like to be a coach, or maybe even be a part of like general manager, help build teams, put teams together,
Yeah.
But so I guess my next question then, when it comes to sports with you, is who was really the team that really got you into sports?
100% Penn State's been the team that has got me into sports a lot. I just love going to games there. Just different sports for Penn State that I really loved.
Yeah, I know, and I was actually about to ask you that too. Like I've seen a lot of stuff you've been reporting on Penn State women's soccer recently. I saw.
Yeah.
So you definitely are big navy blue and white, huh?
Yeah, 100%. They're my go-to team.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe the volleyball team is second in the nation.
Yes, they actually are in second in the nation, and they're current like as we're recording this right now, they're playing against Kansas.
Oh, I mean, a lot of people. I mean, don't get me wrong. Penn State football is definitely big, but the volleyball team's had some pretty good runs over the years.
Yes, 100%. Also, the wrestling teams had some pretty good runs as well.
I think we're selling the Penn State wrestling a little bit short there, calling it a good run.
I know they've won 12 national championships, but I mean, they may have had a good run, but
They're having a phenomenal run, bud. I mean, my
yeah.
goodness, when you've already won the national title before the final matches are set multiple times, that's oof. Well, we may never see a run like that ever again whenever Cale Sanderson decides to retire.
Yeah, he's definitely, in my opinion, the greatest wrestling coach in college history.
There might be some people in Iowa that may not be happy about that.
Yes.
Hey, but nonetheless, Cale Sanderson, what he's done at Penn State is insane.
Yeah, he's an incredible coach for the team.
No, absolutely. And speaking of coaching, we mentioned football earlier. Was football your favorite sport?
Yes, football is actually my favorite sport. I've never played a snap of football, but it's always been my favorite sport to watch and go to games for.
Yeah. And have you ever tried to play sports when you were growing up?
Yeah, I actually played t-ball for a little bit, and then I quote unquote retired from sports. But then during my junior year of high school, I played on the bocce team.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Bocce's a pretty fun sport.
It is. I played during my junior and senior years of high school, and I had some pretty good moments on the team.
Oh, that's awesome. But I will say too, like you said, I used to play baseball and I always did a little soccer as a kid in the YMCA, and I I kind of quickly figured out that sports wasn't going to be my biggest thing, but I fell in love in writing, so I decided to put the two together, and it was a lot of fun. And I even enjoyed the idea of sports management, and trying to help, like I said earlier, trying to build teams up. So if I've always found stuff like the draft and all that fascinating. So what what made you fall in love with like the idea of like, well, I can still be a part of sports, but it's just maybe a little bit differently.
I mean, the thing that made me fall in love with it kind of is just reading all the articles I've seen on hometown sports, and I think that's just been one of the loves for me, like just reading all the different articles that I've seen on there.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of fun to do. Like some of my favorite stories that I've gotten to do were to help like other people, and I really been fascinating too with like kids' decisions when they get the chance to go to play, sports at the next level in college, whether it be Division 1, 2, or 3. I really loved the concept of like, okay, well, why are you going to this college? And hearing kids talk about their majors and how sports has helped them, reach their goals of doing something, outside of sports. I've always really found that fascinating.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Now, when you now you strictly just do videos, or would you be doing some writing?
I would be typically videos, but I would I would have writing within the video. Like I would create like for my videos that I make on Facebook, well on Facebook, but I know this is going to YouTube. I also make a little bit of those, but for my Facebook, for my videos on there, I write a little script talking about like maybe the previous game or what happened in the last season, and just talking about how the team has done, like coaching wise, and how the players have done.
How much research? Let me rephrase that. How much research do you do? Prior to making your videos?
I do my for my research. I do it right after the game ends. I try to find the stats of what happened. Like, let's say it's a Penn State football game. I typically do. I right after the game is over, I go online to find the stats for the game and just translate it into like a little script that I write for the next show.
Nothing wrong with being prepared, bud. Trust me, it'll go a
Yeah.
long way. And speaking of being prepared for stuff, how did it come about for you joining Hometown Sports as an intern with Kenny?
Yeah, I actually was also. It was kind of like how I started my videos. I was like, I can maybe reach out to Kenny and see like if there's anything that I can maybe do to help out with them. And after that, he reached back out to me and a little bit later, and then we had a little interview, and he just told me that I'll be I mean, obviously starting out with the little stuff. I can't get thrown to the dogs right away, and yeah, just been just ready for the opportunity to start writing, which at the time of this recording will be tomorrow.
And nothing wrong with that. Well, for me personally, my first time I ever did something was a basketball game. And that was pretty simple, but trust me, dude, it takes time, and even with all the experience in the world, I can honestly say football is never easy to keep up with.
Yeah, that's what Kenny told me. He told me that football is not the easiest sport to write.
Well, it really depends on like the teams that you're covering. My best advice to you when it comes to that is like, I mean, you got to stay focused 100%. But some, like for example, if like you're covering a team that are more reliant on the running game, it's going to go by really quick, and the pace is a lot slower. So you're able to like, okay, keep track of all the stats. I'm like, okay, this person ran that, and by the time they go, the next play, you're ready to go. Now, if they're trying to go up tempo all the time, that might be a different story.
Yes.
I've got caught up plenty of times, you know, during the football season. But I will say well, let's just strictly talk with fall sports for a minute. Outside of football, I really enjoy covering soccer or a lot, but as well as volleyball. What other sports besides football do you think in the fall weather that you will enjoy covering?
I think definitely the sport I would enjoy covering will be soccer. I and if I do get to do like what I was told, I will be doing like the slower pace sports like soccer, which I'm excited for those opportunities. I just have little to no knowledge about like what goes on in soccer.
Well, I'll give you some advice on that, buddy. Pay attention to like, defense, and also pay attention to like shot attempts and shots on goals. Now there's a difference between shots on goals and shot attempts. Shot attempts are usually just numerous times, like how many times they've shot the ball. Now shots on goal is how many times they actually had a chance to legitimately score. Because a lot of times when someone kicks the ball, they say, well, it's a shot. And I said, well, is it anywhere near the goal? And they said, no. Well, then that's not a shot on goal. Shot on goal and shot attempts are more, how do I explain this? Shot attempts is basically how many times they shot the ball. Shot on goal is how many times they were an accurate shot. So focus on maybe like how accurate, the shots were towards the goal when you ask questions to the coach. Or also pay attention to like turnovers where like they're trying to move the ball, but people like cut them off or steal the ball from them. Those are probably some of the easier ones, especially when it comes to like sometimes soccer obviously can be very low scoring. So maybe focus on like defensive stuff, and like also ask coach questions about how they feel about the accuracy of their shot attempts.
Okay, I can do that. Thank you for the advice.
Yeah, no problem, bud. Trust me, I've been there myself. That was like, for example, I mean, when it comes to soccer, it's a lot easier to talk about multiple goals than it is say like a 1-0 game. 1-0 game, you're like, oh yeah, this goal happened in the first half. Now what do I do? Like, it's really hard to write at least a 500 word story to do that. So I recommend try to focus on like the defensive side of the ball and also like turnovers and also close attempts too. Like there's been a couple of times where like I've had games where I'm like it's 1-0, but then the other team would come up and have a shot attempt and it's like oh so close. Like mention that. Like also mention stuff like that just to show like how intense those games can be.
Okay, I will definitely do that 100%.
Yeah, and if you're not sure, you can always ask the coach about how he feels about certain things, and that sometimes can also help you with adding on questions.
Yeah.
So which soccer game are you going to cover first off?
So it'll be at the time of this recording, it'll be tomorrow. I'll be doing the so I'll be right now. I'll be job shadowing Kenny up at the new stadium for tomorrow's game. At the time of this recording, it'll be both of them, the boys and girls soccer games.
Well, trust me, you'll be in good hands with Kenny. He's a good guy. I've known him he's been a friend and mentor to me for over a decade now. So he's trust me, he's a good guy to follow. And when it comes to sports like that,
I've definitely heard some good things about Kenny.
yeah, trust me, Kenny cares, and that's one of the reasons why I love him so much. He's a good guy, and he cares about the community, and he just wants to help promote Mifflin County sports.
Yeah,
But
I'm excited. Oh, go ahead.
yeah, that's all right. I was just gonna say, yeah, no, absolutely. And let me ask you this: is it easy for you to go travel and cover sports from where you are, from where you live?
Actually, yeah, I only well, road games would be kind of harder for me because I don't drive, but for home games it'd be really easy because I live pretty close to the school. I only live like about a half a mile away.
Hey, that's not bad at all. Maybe you can go check out some soccer games, some field hockey, maybe some tennis.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned your grandfather, Craig Rutherford. Have you ever thought about covering anything racing wise?
Yeah, I've thought about that. I haven't. It's been a little while since I've really watched sprint car racing, but from what I've heard, like what I've seen from him, he's done really really good, and that's what really makes me want to cover sprint car racing.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. I that's actually one of the things racing wise. I always thought it'd be cool to do say I did a Port Royal event and also the Middletown Road Speedway. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Middle Road Speedway.
Yeah, I would love to say I covered that as well. I never got a chance to cover that yet, but that always seemed to be kind of cool to do.
Yeah, I've seen people do those races, and I mean I haven't read any of them, but I've seen people who have done that.
Yeah, and then you said you're a big fan of football and Penn State. Let's talk a little Penn State football, shall we?
Let's do it 100%.
At the time of this recording, Nittany Lions are coming off a season where they made it all the way to the semifinals before being eliminated from the playoffs by the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And now they're coming into as in the top 3 in the nation, which, oof, to say they got some high expectations is putting it mildly, huh?
Oh yeah, 100%. They're expecting this team to be one of the best, if not the best in the country. They're also expecting them to win the Big Ten, maybe the national championship. But it'll just have to depend on how they play against the big teams like Oregon and Ohio State, and it just depends if Drew Aller doesn't like quote unquote fold. Like he's like he'll be under a lot of pressure this year for sure.
Well, yeah, that was one of the reasons why Notre Dame was able to beat them last year was they were able to get pressure on Drew, especially that game-winning interception that led to let me rephrase that, the interception that led to Notre Dame getting that game-winning field goal last year. He definitely has had a history of going through that, but he's also had some big moments, and I definitely feel like he's been a little bit smarter with the ball when it comes to the option game.
Yeah, from the option game, like what you said, he's been really good with that. I'm excited to see how these new wide receivers, because he hasn't really had any yet, but I'm excited to see how these new wide receivers, Devontae Ross, Kyron Hudson, and Trevor Pena, do for the team this year.
No, absolutely. I mean, yeah, they definitely had some struggles with the wide receiver outside of Warren. But with that being said, though, when you got two good running backs like Singleton and Allen, just focus on those two, and then eventually, they're going to have to try to double them, and then that way you can get your receivers open. So maybe put more emphasis on the running game.
Yeah, they should definitely do that. I think Singleton and Catron will do really well this year. I think that because the offensive line will be really good. I think that they can get enough separation from the defense to maybe make a bunch of big bursts to the end zone. I think that Singleton and Allen will do really well in 2025.
No, I think so too. They're definitely one of the best running back duos in the country. There's no denying that. And I mean, when you got two guys who consistently could reach 100 yards a game whenever they want to, I mean, geez, they make me look like a 5-star recruit. All I got to do is hand them the ball.
Yeah, those two are really, really. Those two are probably the best running back duo in the country.
Well, it's either them or Price and Love at Notre Dame. I mean, I've always said this too. I kind of felt like, especially going into the game last year when they met in the semis, I was like, man, these guys are awfully alike each other, don't they? But
They're expecting big things out of Jeremiah Love in 2025. I heard he's expected to be probably the best running back in the country.
oh, he's a great combination of power and speed. It's amazing to watch when Notre Dame plays, which they got no easy task their first week, that's for sure. I mean, but I will say for Penn State, I think it's Nevada they got their first game, I believe.
Yep, it's Nevada this weekend, and then next weekend will be FIU, and then the following week will be Villanova.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed too when I did my Penn State preview story for Kenny and Hometown. I was like, wait a minute, Penn State's got 4 straight home games? Like, how'd they look into that?
Yeah, I mean, when you start out with 3 non-conference teams, then they'll come off the bye, and then they'll have a big game with Oregon. It'll be
Oh,
really interesting.
oh yeah, 100%. That was actually my next question. I mean, the whiteout, or have you ever thought about going to a whiteout game at Penn State?
I went last year. I went to what they call it, an emergency whiteout. It was the game against Illinois whenever they won it 21-7, I believe, was the final score, and it was just an amazing time.
No, absolutely. And I mean, that whiteout's going to be rocking, especially considering they're playing Oregon. I mean, this is going to be a rematch for the Big Ten title from last year, which, needless to say, Oregon won that. But there's definitely going to be a mindset of payback for Penn State going into that game.
Absolutely, I think I just don't think Oregon will be ready for what the environment's got for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not going to be in a neutral site, that's for sure. That's going to be one loud stadium.
Yeah,
Of course, the other big time game that they're going to have to be dealing with this year is going to be Ohio State at Ohio State. How do you think their chances are against them then?
I think this. A lot of people will probably disagree with me on this, but I think Penn State's going to finally beat Ohio State this year. I'm not a big fan of how their quarterback situation is with Julian Sain. I know he did pretty decent last year, but I mean, I just don't think that he's going to be the answer that they need. I like Jeremiah Smith this year. I think he'll be one of the best, if not the best player in the country.
No, absolutely. And of course, you also got to pay attention to some trap games, which Penn State certainly has a couple of them they got to watch out for. Me, I think a team that they may need to pay attention to in their schedule is Nebraska. What do you think? Who do you think is a trap game they need to focus on?
I would say this one, I would 100% say, I would say Iowa because Penn State doesn't really do too well out in Kinnick Stadium, and that environment will be rocking for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you said, and then I think you just said it too. They're at Iowa this year, I believe, right?
Yes, they're at Iowa this year.
Yeah, they are, and usually, I mean, Iowa plays everyone tough. I mean, they're one of those teams. I feel like if Iowa, even if Iowa has a losing record, they would still play teams tough. Like they may go winless, but it ain't because they lost by a lot. They always seem to play tough when they need to.
Yeah, 100%. I think that, like what you said, I think about for Iowa, like if they went winless, they would probably come into this game against Penn State, and their chances of winning would probably be pretty high, even though that they would have a if they would have a losing record. Which, I mean, I don't think they would have a losing record at that time. But if they start out with some, I think two or three. Wait, hold on. I gotta think of this. It's they start with Albany, Iowa State, and then UMass, I believe it is, and then I think that they'll win two of those three at least.
Oh yeah, but what I mean by that as a team that they go winless, but then you look at their stats, they're like, well, they don't give up many points, so they may lose, but it ain't going to be by much.
Yes, 100%.
Now, you like to make predictions and all that stuff. Do you think it's safe to say Penn State's the favorite to win the Big Ten in football this year?
I think it's safe to say that they're probably the favorite. I mean, just look at how some of these other teams like Penn State's really went up and like on the up and up. Like, just look at the returning talent that they have coming back, and look at what like these other teams like Oregon and Ohio State have lost. Like they don't have like Ohio State doesn't and Oregon both don't really have a good quarterback. Like we don't know how any of these guys are going to do and how these teams will perform.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never a big fan of preseason rankings. I never understood those. I'm still a firm believer. Like maybe week 5, I would get kind of an idea of who could be the best teams in the country. I don't know about you, but that's usually I start to think about who's actually really good by like week 5. How about you?
Yeah, I'm not really the biggest fan of preseason rankings because I mean you could be the number one team in the country and then you could easily lose week one and then what's going to happen? Like it just I just think that they should wait a little bit during the season to release rankings.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And Florida State probably agrees with people on that one too. I mean, man, 2 years ago, I thought they were one of the better teams, not just in the ACC, but in the country. Because, they came back from so much. And then just last year, man, I don't know what happened to those guys. They just completely fell off the cliff.
Yeah, I have no clue what happened to them. They started out at Ireland and then they it just what then I knew that they weren't going to be good. Like I just had this feeling that something was up there.
Well, for me, and this is just my humble opinion, but I think what happened to Florida State was they kind of fell victim to the transfer portal, where like their team they had a couple of years ago was really good, but then they all like went to the NFL because they only played in that 1 year, and now they got a bunch of other kids playing there who not as experienced or learn under the system. So it's kind of like a hit or miss with all these transfer stuff.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Like I believe they were 13-0 at 2 years ago, and then this past year they were 2-10, which is just crazy to think about.
Yeah, hopefully they can rebound because I think Novella is a great coach, but man, that oof. And actually, speaking of teams that people thought were going to fall apart, a team that I was really impressed with last year, that many people, since they don't do anything with the transfer portal, was Clemson. They're still hanging in tough in there.
Yeah, Clemson's got a real. I've heard from what I've on the podcast of on the Press Box podcast a few weeks ago. I heard that Brian saying that he has them at his number one team in the country, and that because of how Clemson's defense looks this year, that he said that it could be one of the best in the country this year.
Well, yeah, people forget Dabo Sweeney is a national championship winning coach. He's won a couple national titles, I believe.
Yeah, I believe he's won 2 national titles, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 3.
Yeah, so like I don't know how not getting involved in the transfer portal makes you a bad coach, but that's that's kind of a weird one to me. But Yeah, no, I mean, heck, he pulled off the upset and won the ACC title last year. So, yeah, I wouldn't count out Clemson at all.
Yeah, Clemson will definitely be a really good team this year.
Actually, and I'd like to get your opinion on this. I like to watch a lot of ACC sports myself. And I think the ACC football conference might be an underrated conference this year. You got Clemson, Florida State might bounce back. Pitt's not a bad team. But then you got Manny Diaz and the Duke Blue Devils. And then you got Boston College had a pretty good year last year under Bill O'Brien. And now you got Bill Belichick at North Carolina. Man, the ACC might be, I'm not saying it's going to be the best conference, but I'm just saying it might be a lot better conference than I think people may give it credit.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that the ACC is really, really underrated. Just looking at the talent that conference can produce, and looking at the teams like this year, like what you said with Clemson and like Boston College with Bill O'Brien, and then Bill Belichick at UNC. Another team like that would be like SMU because of how good they did last year. Even though they did kind of lose, even though they didn't do good at Happy Valley. So I think the ACC will be one of the best in like one of the best conferences.
I'm I'm glad you brought up SMU because oh bless their hearts. They're For those of you that may not know, SMU is a school in Texas. And when they came to Penn State, which oh my lord, do you remember that day? That was freezing.
Yeah, it was pretty cold outside.
I have a I recorded an episode with my cousin Drew, which will be coming up here shortly. He he works as a groundskeeper at Penn State. And he was at that game working in the stadium during that game, and my goodness, was it freezing. Heavy wind. I think it was only like 13 degrees. That certainly played a factor in slowing down SMU.
Yeah, also like that. I agree with you on that. And also, just I don't think Kevin Jennings, their quarterback, was prepared for the environment because he threw 3 picks in that game.
Oh no, absolutely. And I don't think he's used. I think he's used to playing at a high speed, but I don't think he was used to playing at high speed wins. But no, Penn State definitely. I mean, to be fair, Penn State definitely took advantage of the opportunity, so they definitely deserve that win. But you know, like I said before, they said that they are definitely the favorites to win the Big Ten title. But do you think they could make another deep run in the national the championship playoffs?
I'm hoping that they can make a run. I think the team's capable of making a run, but it just depends on how James Franklin does coaching the team and how good are like how good the players are playing.
Yeah, no, I definitely can agree with that because one of the things that I've always felt with Penn State was that defensively, with the exception of last year, I kind of thought defense was was a little down last year. But in fairness, though, they had a brand new defensive coordinator, and now they got another defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles. But consistently, the offense has had its moments where it's like, wow, they're doing really good, and then there were times you're like, what's going on? Like they definitely seem to miss the mark a lot on offense.
Yeah, definitely. They have missed. They've had their ups and downs for sure, but I think that they've had more ups because of how some of the players have done. But definitely the biggest downs for them were the wide receivers last year. Because look at Julian Fleming last year. He dropped everything that was thrown to him.
Yeah, no, well, yeah, no, you can say that about a lot of the receivers, and to be fair though, Allert's had his moments where he's overthrown some people that were open, but it happens. But maybe this could finally be the year for them to like get it all put together.
I hope so. I hope these receivers do good. I just hope that he does good as well, and I just hope it's not one of those seasons that Penn State does so good when it matters and it just doesn't work out.
Well, yeah, no, you got to be careful when it comes to that. That's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of preseason rankings because a lot of people are like, "Oh man, look, Penn State's like third in the nation. They're going to be really good this year." And I'm like, "Yeah, but it could very easily fall apart. Injuries, you know, teams that you thought weren't going to be as good turns out they're they're better than you and they beat you. Like you can't take it, especially nowadays with the Big Ten and the SEC, especially being the two big super conferences. You can't take any team lightly anymore in those conferences.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you on that one.
I mean, last year, if I'm not mistaken, even though Minnesota was kind of 500 last year, they gave a lot of the big, high ranking teams in the Big Ten trouble. They were really good last year.
Yeah, that Minnesota team last year was really good. Even though that I believe they finished with I'm not even sure off the top of my head what their record was because they gave a good run for their money in a bunch of those games, like Penn State, Michigan, and then they beat USC.
Yeah, and USC could be reloading right now, as well as Wisconsin and Nebraska. So, and like you said earlier, Iowa could be another team that could catch, Penn State and a lot of other teams in the Big Ten off guard. So, there's definitely going to be no resting when it comes to the Big Ten this year.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you.
I mean, really, and of course the SEC has always been one of the top conferences, if not the top conferences, when it comes to football. But is there anybody from the SEC you think could make a run?
The team that everybody thinks is going to make a run will be Texas, but we still haven't seen Arch Manning. It's just a name, like because he's not proven yet. I've heard Texas, I've heard maybe Alabama, but I don't think Bama is going to be good with Ty Simpson. I have also heard LSU could make a run, but I just don't know how they're gonna. They're not. I don't know how they're gonna do either.
Yeah, and I would also we can't sleep on Georgia and I think I could be wrong on this. Texas A&M, I think, are they in the SEC?
Yeah. Yep. They're in the SEC.
Yeah, I was gonna say they got they've been getting some recruits lately too, and you mentioned LSU with Brian Kelly. The SEC is pretty stacked as well, so can't sleep on anybody. And honestly, I think Arch Manning could be pretty good. I think there is a lot of pressure because of his name, but there was a reason why he was highly recruited though when he was in high school. So,
Absolutely. I think that Arch will be pretty good as well.
but yeah, no, but Texas. Well, I mean, let's be honest. If Texas is obsessed with the game of football, so if you go to really any school in that state, you're going to want to be expected to be pretty good because like I said, Texas is big on football, whether it be the Cowboys, the Texans, the Longhorns, or TCU or SMU. If you play football in Texas, you better be good.
Absolutely.
And let's. I want to hear one of your predictions. Even though this will air afterwards, but I would like to see you predict who do you think would win, Texas or Ohio State?
Okay, so this game could 100% go either way, but I personally think that Texas will go into the shoe and beat Ohio State.
You think they're gonna pull off the upset?
I hope so. I'm hoping so. I'm not a big Ohio State guy, obviously, because I'm a Penn State fan, but it's not. There's no bias toward Texas because of not being an Ohio State fan. But Ohio State could definitely win that game too.
Well, it's lucky for them they're at home when it happens.
Absolutely, that place will be ruckus for sure.
But yeah, no, and I will say this, mention Ohio State and Texas. I'm surprised that Texas got the number one ranking in preseason because Ohio State just won the national title.
Yeah, that's what I said in the Press Box podcast. I said I think if you win the national championship, you probably should be the number one team in the country.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you're the one that you have what everyone wants.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I'm definitely never going to count out Ohio State. I mean, they may have lost a lot, which they did, but they've always recruited well and always had some of the top teams, in the nation. So never underestimate, the Buckeyes.
Yeah, 100%. I think that it'll be a decent year for Ohio State. I wouldn't say it'll be an elite year, but I think it'll be a good year for them.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about Michigan? Michigan could be, another team in the Big Ten that could really make some noise.
Yeah, Michigan could be pretty good. I think they could be an underrated team in the nation. I saw that last night that as at the time of this recording, where they named true freshman Bryce Underwood the starting quarterback.
No, absolutely. And I'm actually working on it on my blog post right now, which will come out before this episode. But Notre Dame came out with a redshirt freshman, CJ Carr, as their starting quarterback. So that's probably the one position that everyone needs to make sure they get right when it comes to recruiting, because you're not always able to get transfers to come in all the time.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I think that like what we were talking about with Michigan about Bryce Underwood. I don't know if he's like I heard on a press conference about Sharon Moore. He said that from the middle of camp he knew that he was going to be the starter.
Hey, no, that's high praise right there.
Absolutely.
And it definitely, I mean, let's not try to look too far ahead, because Aller's still a pretty good quarterback, but he's obviously going to be playing his last year. So, how do you think Penn State's going to try to, think of the future in that position for them?
I definitely think that they'll go within the quarterback room for that for next year. I think that it'll either be Ethan Grunkenmeyer or whoever they have also in there in that room. Maybe I'm not sure what his name is off the top of my head. I think it's Jackson Smolik.
Okay, yeah. Well, I mean, it definitely could, and they can always recruit, somebody else to come in and transfer as well. But I guess my next Penn State question I'd like to get your opinion on is, out of all the years Franklin has been coaching there at Penn State, do you think Allard has been his best quarterback?
I would say Allard would be one of his best quarterbacks. I would say he's the best quarterback that they've had. While James Franklin's been the head coach, I would say it would probably either be Trace McSorley or Sean Clifford, maybe.
Yeah, Clifford definitely had I mean, granted, yes, he had extra years, but still he was very consistent though for Penn State. And McSorley definitely had his moments.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that for sure. I think Franklin's worst quarterback would probably be Christian Hackenberg.
Well, in fairness to Hackenberg, he was recruited by somebody else, and
Yeah, he
O'Brien's
was
style.
recruited.
No, yeah, no, it's all good. But yeah, no, he was recruited by Bill O'Brien, so his style of offense is definitely a lot different than Franklin's, and Franklin's more of a dual threat quarterback system anyway, which nothing wrong with that. It's definitely worked out well for him.
Yeah, I think all the quarterbacks that Franklin's had during his time at Penn State, I think have all been pretty good.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think this is his best team that he's had in his entire run at Penn State?
Oh, absolutely. I think just like what I was saying earlier about the returning talent, I think that returning talent is definitely going to play out how the season's going to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I definitely think Penn State, and this is just my humble opinion, I definitely think Penn State will be in the running for the national championship. I think they definitely have the ability with a lot of their, you know, returning, players and experience that they got. And defensively, they definitely could be. I'm interested to see how it will be under Jim Knowles, because, like I said last year, I thought defensively they kind of, took a step back a little bit, just a little bit. But now they got Knowles in there, and it's kind of appropriate that he signed with Penn State the same time that they're finally going to play Ohio State this season. Which, to be honest, I was shocked that he left Ohio State. Because they were the number one defense in the country.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think kind of like what you were saying with Jim Knowles. Actually kind of surprised he signed with Penn State, but no, I think he'll be. I think that Jim Knowles will be a pretty good defensive coordinator for Penn State.
Yeah, he could definitely have an impact for on that defense. But like I said, this is all pure speculation. We'll have to wait and see how the season progresses.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
But let me ask you your prediction for Penn State. Do you think they will win the national or win a national title this year?
I hope so, but it's just like it just depends on how they do in the championship rounds, like the semifinals, and then obviously the first, if they have a home playoff game, it'll depend on that too, and then it'll be the semifinals, and then if they win the semifinals, I hope they can somehow win the national championship.
No, absolutely, and it's definitely going to be a fun ride, and you'll probably be hanging around a lot of Mifflin County stuff as well. How do you think the Huskies are going to do this season?
They look pretty good week one. I'm hoping that translates into their next bunch of games at home. I hope that they can win on Friday night, and I just hope that the team does pretty good as well.
Will we be seeing any more of sports reporting videos from you about the team?
Absolutely, I'll definitely be making more videos for about the Huskies.
Hey man, nothing wrong with that. At Now, do you ever hope to like maybe interview people as well, or do you just like to just talk about the team and make predictions?
I hope to interview people, but I like making videos like just talking about how they did that night.
No, absolutely. And let's talk a bit about your show, Sports Talks with Logan. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you said it right. It's actually called Talking Sports with Logan.
Oh, my apologies, my apologies.
Nope, you're all good.
But let's talk about that a little bit. So like how'd you come up with the name and like what would what did you think oh hold on, let me rephrase that. My apologies. Like what was your goal with it when you started doing it?
My goal with it was hoping that people would notice how, like, for my sports videos, but I was hoping that people would notice me, like, because coming from a small county, maybe I could be one of those big YouTubers, and or just make, how do I say it, like, hopefully being like a big YouTuber and like a social media influencer. I was just hoping that maybe one day that could happen, but for how I got the name, I just like I was trying to find a name. The original name was the Logan Decker pregame show, and I didn't like the name of that, so I was just like, I could maybe change it to something else, like Talking Sports with Logan, because that's what I talk about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how many videos have you made now since you started?
Ooh, I would say it's probably been over. Well, across YouTube, it's probably been about almost 2,000 videos, but on Facebook and Instagram and stuff, it's probably been about 200 plus.
Holy mackerel. You're keeping busy.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Nothing wrong with that. I do this and work on my blog and do some other writing, so it's important to keep busy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what is the process like for you when you go and like picking a game? Like, oh, which game should I talk about? You know, or which one should I report on? Like, how do you go about what sport or game you like to talk about?
Let me trying to think about this. I'm trying to think how I can like word it, but like the process for me just goes like, okay, how could I like, what do I want to talk about? Do I want to talk about the game itself? Do I want to talk about like what players did good? What, like, how the team itself did? Like, just like in simple terms, just like talk about like how the team or how the players did.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. And one of the reasons why I like doing this talk show and writing and all that stuff too. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. We're from a small community and trying to help build something up from a small town. So that has to be something that's on your mind too when you make these videos. You're like, oh, I just want to help out and try to build something for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I always see like the most famous YouTubers are come from LA and Florida and all those big cities, and it would just be cool for like a small town person like where we're at, and just to see if we could get like really big on YouTube.
Now, I will say here, I see on your avatar, you're a Dodgers fan, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I'm a big Dodgers fan. I don't watch them too much, but I'm a Dodgers fan.
You know, they're coming off a world championship last year, you know, and by the time of this recording, they kind of been on a little bit of a slide. All right, but overall, how do you think they've been doing so far this year?
The Dodgers have definitely had their ups and downs. I don't think this will be the year that they repeat as the World Series champs, but I think Otani's done pretty well this year. But I just don't think the team has really performed because they've had a lot of injuries, and trading Dustin May, even though he was doing okay with the Dodgers, but they traded Dustin May over to the Red Sox.
Yeah, I actually watched him pitch for the Red Sox against the Yankees on ESPN the other day, and man, did they were hitting him hard. He gave up a lot of runs.
Yeah, he was a pretty decent, consistent pitcher for the team, but I hope that he does well in Boston.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you don't want to wish anyone ill will. You want to see everyone succeed to the best of their abilities. And I will say this though, the Padres have been catching the Dodgers as well in the division.
Yeah, the Padres have done pretty well this year. They could honestly beat the Dodgers for the NL West.
The Padres might actually be able to be the NL representatives. You know, obviously you got Philly and the way Milwaukee's been playing. You know, that that's no easy task getting to the NLCS.
Absolutely.
Now, what who'd you say is your favorite pro sports team?
Pro sports team would be the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Ah, yes, the black and gold, the Steelers. They're they find themselves in an interesting situation now, have they?
Yeah, definitely had that situation like with the new quarterback coming in, Aaron Rodgers. I hope he does good, but I just think it's time for him to hang it up.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest with you, I was surprised anyone went after him. I mean, that's it's not a knock on Rodgers. I definitely think he's a good quarterback, but like you said, he's up there in age and he's coming off the injury, a bad one when he was with the Jets, and I don't think he's fully recovered from that.
Right, I agree with you.
And there's definitely going to be some changes. I mean, who know? I mean, realistically, to that division that they're in against the Ravens and the Bengals, that's going to be one tough division, that's for sure.
Absolutely. I think the Ravens will probably win the division. I could see the Bengals beating out the Steelers for second, and then you just got the Browns, who are just the Cleveland Browns.
Well, to be honest with you, when it comes to the Steelers, like the best way I can describe how I feel about the Bengals is like, you know how the Steeler defense always seems to be better when they had TJ Watt there healthy?
Yeah,
That's kind of how I feel like with the Bengals. I'm like, if they could just simply protect Burrow, they could make a run. But Burrow is like one of the most hit quarterbacks since he's gotten in the league.
yeah. His offensive line that he's had in Cincinnati hasn't been really good.
I mean, he's getting absolutely, I mean, and especially in that division, you're going to get beat up a lot.
Absolutely.
But you mentioned about repeating. It's so hard to repeat, you know, especially in pro sports anymore now with all the people with going to the free agency and all these trades and all that stuff. I guess in a way, it's kind of impressive, like how Kansas City he has been able to make the run that they've had for a long time now.
Yeah, Kansas City has definitely had a pretty good run, but I'm just happy that somebody finally beat them, which was obviously the Eagles.
Oh, the Eagles didn't just beat them; they stomped them. Holy moly! I've never seen Patrick Mahomes run for his life like they did in that game. I was not expecting the Super Bowl to be as big of a blowout as it was.
I wasn't expecting it either. I thought it was going to be a lot closer than it was.
Yeah, but then again, I said the same thing about the Dodgers Yankees. I'm like thinking, oh, geez, this series is going to go 7 games. Nope. It only went 5, and the Dodgers just, I wasn't expecting that, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that either.
Oh, man. So I guess in a way to wrap this up, since you're getting to do this and all that stuff, what is your ultimate goal of, doing these videos and being a part of, hometown sports?
I'm hoping one day that I can inspire other people to maybe get into this kind of bit, like sports writing and YouTube and all that. I just hope that one day that people will see that and be like, maybe one day I could accomplish that goal.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. That's an excellent goal, if I say so myself. But I'll add on to that, and I'll tell this to you as well, to anyone that's watching this. You're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have some frustrations, but keep working at it, and believe me, it will all work out in the end, especially if it's something that you love.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that.
Well, Logan, thank you so much for coming on here today. Yeah, I really appreciate it, and I hope and pray everything works out for you and your sports.
Yes, thank you, Josh. Thank you for the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And tell your grandfather I said hello. I hope he's doing well.
I will 100% tell him.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And to all of you that are watching this, thank you for watching. Love you all, and God bless. Be safe, everybody.